Hi, everybody. Welcome to Virtual Gentle Chair Yoga with Keith Beasley, brought to you by the Public Library of Brookline. My name is Bati Blumenthal. I'm the branch supervisor of the Putterham location of the Public Library of Brookline. And thank you for joining us. Also with us today is Brookline Interactive Group, where they will be streaming this program on on through their Facebook page. It will through their YouTube page and also on Comcast and RCN Local Channel 3. This program is generously sponsored by the Friends of the Brookline Public Library, and for which we are thankful that we have been able to bring this to you. So before we start with Keith, I'm just going to read the disclaimer for this program. Participation in this online yoga program could result in injury. Not all exercises presented here are suitable for everyone. These exercises are not intended to substitute for proper medical care or advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any exercise program. The creators, teachers, and producers assume no responsibility for injuries from participation in this program. And without further ado, here is Keith.
Good morning. So let's go ahead and begin. Oh, and I had a question. I should have asked it before. I'm sorry. Are we going till 11:40? Or are we cutting off at 11:30?
Yes. Yeah. In fact, it looks like Andrew blocked it off all the way till 12 o'clock. So just in case.
Great. All right. So we'll try to. I'll shoot for. I have 10:33 now. We'll shoot for 11:40, and that'll try to be so everybody will figure out what the schedule is, but including any comments at the end, any discussion at the end, we'll try to end by 11:40, so everybody knows. So good morning, everyone. And before we started, I wanted to go over just a little bit of setup, because we're doing most of the things in a chair. So I have a towel here. You could also use a blanket. So I wanted to just very quickly review our posture in the chair, or how we sit relative to the chair. So ideally, the thighs are parallel to the floor, so that when I sit up, if the thighs are, if I'm really tall, and my legs are long here, which they're not, but my knees stick up like this, it's very hard for me to sit up. I want to fall backwards. And it's the opposite if I'm really short and my knees are down. So if you notice that you're a shorter person, and your knees are down like this, they're down below the hips, it's nice to be able to put your feet on something. Now, you won't stand on this when we do anything standing. You won't stand on the towel, but you'll use it just to even up the thighs. And it's the opposite if you're seated in the chair and you're tall. So if you're tall, you'll need more length, more distance between the knee and the floor. So you have to raise your chair up. So unless you have a really tall chair, and you may if you're a particularly tall person, and it's always a struggle if you're not an average size person. There's always little adjustments to make. But sitting on something if you're really tall, something under the feet if you're really short, is really helpful. Makes it a lot more comfortable, and it really makes the spine more easily extendable. And that's the two things that are really important in our yoga practice are our breathing, our abdominal breathing, our really being able to breathe diaphragmatically, and also extending the spine. When the spine collapses and rounds over, it's really uncomfortable. It's not good for us. So let's start out with thinking about those two things, about our spine extending. We call this axial extension, and also our breath. So the knees are about hip width apart, maybe a little wider, if you like them a little wider. You sort of have to find what's comfortable. As you widen the hips, the pelvis can rock forward a little. You notice the belly begins to stick forward a little bit more. So I get a little more curve in the lower back. So it's easier to get this nice lumbar curve. Being careful not to overdo the lumbar curve. So if you know that you have a lordosis in the lower back, an extra big lumbar curve, you want to try to avoid that. And then we'll rest the hands somewhere on the legs and sitting up nice and tall. And I like to close my eyes. It makes it easier for me to bring my attention inward so that I'm not paying so much attention to what I see. And it makes it easier for me to feel the breath. You're welcome to rest your hand on the belly so you can feel the belly going back and forth. And actually, we did this last time. I think we did anyway. Let's bring both hands to the belly so that your fingertips, the middle fingers, are going to be right where the navel is. And put your middle fingertips together like this and rest them on the belly. And notice now that my top fingers, my index and thumb, are up right around the near the ribs. So as I breathe in with diaphragmatic breathing, the belly expands, and then I get some expansion in the lower ribs as well. And then when I exhale, the lower ribs soften and release and go back, and the belly relaxes. If you're watching your belly, if you want to look down for a moment, it's almost like you're seeing a balloon inflating and deflating. And sitting up nice and tall, thinking about feeling the soles of the feet. So go ahead and bring your mind's eye down underneath the feet where the soles touch the floor or your shoes. And very gently press the soles down. So I'm going to do this. I'm just going to lean forward ever so slightly and press the soles of my feet down. So there's a little engagement in the thighs when I do that. And that'll help me. So when I press my feet down, I feel a little more support, almost like I get a little lift up the legs and then up the spine, keeping the face and eyes relaxed. And if you can feel the belly moving, you can try lowering the hands back down. And without having the hands there, feeling the belly and the lower ribs. So we're going to call this our two-part breath. The first part is the belly, and the second part is the lower ribs. Like a two-part breath. You might notice as you breathe in, the area around the heart expands and the shoulder blades move back ever so slightly. So there's this opening around the heart. And then as I exhale, there's a softening in the heart, softening in the ribs, softening in the belly. I'd like to start with a sound. So sometimes we make the sound of Om, but I've been practicing recently with brummery, with the bumblebee sound. So it might be handy to have a little water, take a sip of water. Sometimes the brummery sound, it's a vibration of the throat that sometimes it tickles the throat a little bit, so it makes us cough a little. So imagine a bee is flying in. I have the closed door over here, but it can fly under the door. There's a good gap under the door. So the bee's going to fly in under the door. It's going to fly past me, and then it's going to go out through the window, even though the window is closed. It's a very talented bee to be able to do those things. And so what we're imagining is the sound gets louder, and then it peaks when it gets in front of us, and then it gets softer as it goes away. So it sounds like this. So we take a normal breath in. You can, if you know how to do brummery, go ahead and join in. So we work on making it nice and smooth. It doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't need to be long. Think about making it smooth with that, with the articulation of the volume, rather than being louder or being longer. It's more important, the vocal cords are muscles, so we need to work them. We need to exercise them. So let's do it a few times together. Actually, let's do it for about a minute. So what we'll do is we'll start together, and then you'll continue on your own. I mean, I can't hear anyone, so you'll continue on your own. After you make the first one, you'll take a normal breath and just make another one. And try not to overdo it. So the important thing, so Brahmari is really, in yoga, we call it a pranayama. So a pranayama means breath work. Some people refer to it as energy movement. But what it really means is that we are connecting with the nervous system with the breath. And if we overdo it, if we try too hard, trying to take a really big breath or really long breath or really loud, it tends to create tension. And that's very, pranayama, you need to be relaxed. So we have to accept where we are at the moment. And then if you practice over time, it gets easier, gets longer, gets louder. So remember to think about underdoing rather than overdoing. And let's go ahead, let's begin. We'll breathe in together. And so remember, we'll continue for about a minute on your own. Breathing in and feeling the vibration in the throat. Keeping the face and eyes relaxed. Relaxing the shoulders and the arms. And last one. And just take a few normal breaths here without changing anything. Just being relaxed, sitting up with good posture. You can continue to have the eyes closed if you like. Notice the belly moving with the breath. Allow the jaw and the tongue and the throat to relax. Allow the jaw, the tongue, and the throat to relax. And then we'll go ahead and we'll bring the hands together. And we'll add some movement with our breathing. So feel free, if you'd like, to open your eyes now. And actually, let's check our posture again. So sometimes when we sit for a while, we automatically assume a different posture. Sometimes without even noticing it, we'll cross our leg like this, or start to lean back. So go ahead and check your posture again. And the back of the chair. So feel free. I put a blanket on my back of the chair because it's kind of hard back there. Feel free, if you're starting to get a little bit tired, to use the back of the chair. It's nice to have a chair that the bottom is flat here rather than tipped backwards. And the same thing with the back of the chair. And depending on on how you're feeling, the arms on the chair, they can be nice, or sometimes they get in the way. So, but go ahead and check your posture so that the weight's even on the feet, even in the buttocks, and even in the shoulders. So my shoulders hang down. We'll let the arms hang down. When my shoulders hang down, It's almost like the neck is getting a little longer. So I don't let the neck collapse. I let the shoulders hang down and I extend the neck up. Let's rock from side to side. So feeling the weight shifting from one sitting bone. So the sitting bone is underneath. So it's right, if you go up your leg, right where it meets the buttock, the sitting bone is the bony part at the base of the pelvis, right about here on me. So I want to feel that sitting bone, one and then the other. I'm rocking back and forth. And if you want to add a little bit more, feel free to lift the feet up. You'll notice when you do that, it's a little more effort in the belly to lift the feet. And the higher you lift the feet, the more your belly is working. The more the belly's working, the more the hip flexors. So find a spot that feels comfortable. Remember, in yoga, we always talk about balancing ease and effort. And if you start to feel winded when you're doing this, when you start to lose the ability to breathe comfortably, you're probably overdoing. And if you're not breathing at all or you're holding your breath, so that's another possibility, is if we're trying too hard, we hold the breath. And please try to avoid that. So we try to be kind to ourselves in yoga. You're also welcome to, if you want, to have the hands and arms working a little bit as I'm going to the side. You can also work with the hands by the shoulders. And if balance is an issue at all, you can hold on to the sides of the chair. Makes it a little bit easier. When I lean over, I'm actually holding on with this opposite hand, and it keeps me from going over so far. And I'm going to come back to the middle a little bit slowly. So I'm still going to move side to side, and then I'm going to come back right to the middle. So I feel balanced, or as balanced as we're often a little out of balance anyway. Just our body is, we're not even on each side. The muscles, we're just not that way. Humans aren't that way. We're like lobsters with the big claw and the little claw. So we'll sit up nice and tall, and we'll bring the hands together in front of the heart, and then go ahead and spread the fingers apart like this. I'm going to hold my hands together right in front of the heart, and I'm going to take the thumbs and put the tips of the thumbs right on my sternum, and I'm going to allow the palms to come together. And I'm going to come up, and then I'll go back down a couple of times. And so you may feel a gentle stretch in the back of the wrist. That's what we're looking for here. But please don't overdo it. So if you feel a big stretch in the back of the wrist, it's probably too much. Unless you're used to it, unless you do this stretch often and you're warmed up. And let's inhale and lift the arms up. And then the arms float down on the exhalation. So the movement is following the breath. The movement follows the breath. So you may not be in time with me. And that's okay. We don't need to be exactly the same. All you have to do is think about, I'm breathing in, my palms come together and they float straight up. And then they come apart, they turn out as I'm exhaling, and they float down. And then they come back together. Feel free to go ahead and close the eyes. Also, if you wanted to hold something between the thighs, a block, a rolled up towel, feel free to do that. That'll help engage the thighs a little bit. The inner thigh muscles engage that way. And if I'm holding something there, I'm not squeezing, I'm only squeezing hard enough to hold the whatever it is in place. I'm not trying to bring my thighs together. And then let's stop in the middle and let's go back the other way. Now I'm going to exhale, release the hands down, turn the palms up, and then inhale up. Depending on your shoulders, some people may feel really good about going really high, and some people might like to go much lower. Still, the benefit is the same. We're working within our own range of motion here. That's very important. One of the, or Some people say it's the most important principle of yoga is, or the important, they have some moral restraints, they call them. They have the yamas and the niyamas in Sanskrit, they're called. And the first one is ahimsa, which means nonviolence. And they say that all the other teachings flow from nonviolence. So things like non-stealing. And when you steal, it's potentially, I mean, it hurts other people. Somebody's losing when you're stealing, even if you're benefiting. And then we'll go ahead and stop, and we'll do some cactus breaths like this. Thinking about breathing in, and the arms are floating out to the side. And you can float them either, they can be low, and they can be medium, or they could be high, up like this. Elbows no higher than the shoulders, though. And if you're going to work up high like this, you want to make sure that you can keep the shoulders relatively relaxed. If the shoulders are coming up by the ears, then that's not a good place to work. We want to be working in a place where the shoulders can stay relaxed. And this can be really nice too down here. You can really get a nice feeling of opening of the heart when you work down below. So I'm lifting. I'm going to turn sideways so you can see. So there's this opening, and notice the shoulder blades are coming together. So my shoulder blades are coming together behind me. You could also do most of these exercises standing if you wanted to. So I mean, we're doing this as a chair class, so I'll demonstrate most of the things in a chair, but you could, I mean, this is, the only difference is the legs are straight here. So if you get tired of sitting and your balance is good, you can do many of these exercises standing, at least with the arms and the shoulders anyway. And let's come back and sit up nice and tall. And we're going to start with a little warm up. It's called bending the spine in 6 ways. So the spine bends forward and back, a flexion and extension. I'll turn sideways so you can see sort of this is a flexion and this is extension. And I'll turn sideways. Notice about a 90-degree angle here. And the ankles are underneath the knees. The knees line up with the hip. And the shoulders are relaxed. And we place the hands out on the towards the knees. If you can, you might even drape the fingers so you can hold the knees a little bit. But I'm not really pulling on the knees. Notice the arms are straight. And then I'm going to inhale and think about lifting my heart forward. And then I exhale and I move my heart back. So the movement here is coming in the upper part of the spine, in this where the shoulder blades are, the thoracic area. And there's some movement down lower. You'll notice the hips are rocking a little, and you might notice that the chin likes to lift up and down a little. So when we move one part of the spine, there's a ripple effect. The whole rest of the spine moves. But we do this to develop some suppleness. So please continue like this. So we're inhaling and lifting and exhaling and back. So I'm thinking about, just like when we were doing Brahmari and not overdoing it, think about see if you can do this with some ease. So that when we get movement, we're doing it with some ease. I'm inhaling, lifting the chest, exhaling, it's back. It's almost like, let's sit back up for a minute. Let's bring our elbows like this and our hands out in front and just move the elbows back slowly and then come back. So if you move your elbows back and you feel your shoulder blades, they start to move towards each other. And then we'll go like this and we'll cross our hands. And now the shoulder blades are separating apart behind us. So I'll turn around so you can see. So they're coming together and then they're separating apart. So that's the feeling we want in the shoulder blades when we move the heart forward and back. So you could even, if you want to, you can continue to work with the elbows like this, or you can bring the hands back and work without using the arms. Sometimes in the beginning, it's helpful to have these additional movements or other movements to start to teach the body what does it feel like for these movements to occur. A lot of times we can't do movements because we either can't feel them or we don't have the neurological connection between the brain and the body. So we have to teach ourselves to do that. And so that's number 1 and 2, the flexion and extension of the spine. Now we're going to do a lateral flexion or extension, whichever, it sort of depends on which side of the body you're on. We're going to start with the hands like this. We started to do this before when we were rocking, but we're going to keep the feet flat this time. So you could also do this standing. If you don't want to do it sitting, feel free to stand up. And you can work, actually, let's work with the hands on the shoulders like this if you're standing. Start like this. So there's, either way, there's this bending. There's a bending of the side of the body. There's a bending of the side of the body. And there's a grounding in the feet. There's a grounding in the feet. So very gently press into the feet as you bend the side body. So we're feeling these ribs opening. So the ribs are held together, among other things, by the intercostal muscles. So if we want to be able to breathe better, breathe with more ease, the ribs need to be able to move. If they're stuck, then it's hard for the lungs to fill underneath the ribs. And then if you want, you can add a little bit of lengthening like this, as long as your shoulders are okay. And let's do it like this. Let's, when you reach up with your hand, so I'll mirror you. This is I'm going to reach up with my right hand. I'm going to press my right foot into the floor. So my right foot's heavy, and then I'm going to lift up the heel of my opposite foot like this. So notice my heel's lifting up, and the foot with the arm raised is pressing down. And then I'm going to do the other side like this. So I'm going to go back and forth, lifting my heel up. So lifting the heel is going to help shift the weight into that flat foot. That's why I'm lifting the heel. And I'm also leaning a little bit this time. So so normally we lean to the opposite side. So with this one, we're going to lean to the same side to get the weight into the foot, but I'm still bending the ribs. And then I'm going to bring the hands down. Let's reach up like this a few times. So if your shoulders bother you, just try do the chicken flap or the turkey flap. Then going over to Lars Anderson. And sometimes in the evening, right around dusk, you can hear some turkeys. I mean, we have a lot of turkeys here now. I don't mean people, the feathered kind. And let's roll the arms around. Let's make a few arm circles like this. This is another little chest opener. So as I roll my shoulders back, my heart's opening here, the shoulder blades are coming together, and then my elbows roll down and around. And let's go back the other way. And we'll come back. So the final one, so the 1 and 2 is the flexion extension. That's the forward and bending forward and back. 3 and 4 is the sideways. And 5 and 6 we'll do a turning of the body. So we'll start with just going like this, turning, moving one elbow back and then the other, noticing the movement across the belly. So if you can, it's, I don't know if you can see here, but there's this diagonal movement. My shoulders moving back, and my belly's moving back on this side, and it creates a tautness, a stretching across here. So it's back and forth. So you can remember, you can do this standing if you want. And you may find that one or the other, you're better able to feel the turning of the belly. So this is really good. This tautness, this tightening across the belly, back and forth, is really good for digestion and elimination. Some people call this coat sleeves, to just let your arms swing. Notice that my feet aren't moving, and even my knees aren't moving very much. They move just because, remember, knees they're not made to twist. Don't twist your knees when you do this. There's a little bit of weight shifting back and forth. The pelvis is turning up here. So here are my hip bones. So I'm turning my pelvis, but my knees are not moving. And if you get any knee pain from it, sit down and try it without. The knees are definitely, they're hard to move if you're seated. And so we're going to do our turning, and so we're going to turn to the right first. So let's get a little bit of length in the spine by raising the arms up. So you'll have two choices. If your shoulders feel good, you can reach the arms up like this. So we're just going to reach the arms up. And as you reach them up, think about extending the spine at the same time your arms are going up. So there's this sort of symbiotic, this lifting by the arms of the spine. So it feels like the arms are helping to lift and extend the spine up. And if your shoulders, if that's not accessible, try it with your elbows like this. So going up. And you'll notice both sides of the body starting to lift. So we're using anything available to help teach the spine to lift. It can be raising the ribs. It can be raising the arms. It can even be pressing, let's try that, pressing the feet down. So go ahead and press the feet down as you lift up. And think about pressing the sitting bones down. So we have things pressing down for support, and then we have the rest of the body lifting up to extend. Let's try that one more time. And this time, we're going to inhale. And then as we exhale, the arms are going to float down. But think about the spine floating up as you turn towards the right. And I'm mirroring you here. And the left palm is on the outside of the knee. And I'm turning, my head is neutral or relatively neutral on the shoulders. I'm not turning to look behind me. So in the beginning part of this pose, we're just going to stay here for a few breaths. And then as I exhale, I soften. So remember, we felt that belly, the tautness along the belly. So notice as you exhale, if you can soften that belly, soften the side ribs. And as you're inhaling, we gently extend the spine up. Remember, balancing ease and effort here. And then one more time, sit up. And then we're going to turn back. First, the head turns back, then the shoulders, and then the belly comes around last. We'll do the other side now. So let's get that length by either lifting the elbows and ribs, or lifting the arms and the ribs. And one more time, inhaling up. And then as we exhale, think about extending the spine, spine's rising up, and we turn to the opposite side. So the palms on the outside of the knee. And you can bring that hand, I'll turn sideways so you can see, you can bring the hand behind you, and depending on the length of your arm or where it feels comfortable, some people may be able to rest the palm on the chair and gently press the palm to help lift the heart up. Some people might use the fingertips like this. And if you find it's really uncomfortable, you can also put a towel or a blanket back here to give extra support, and then press into the support. But we use the backhand to help us a little bit. So we're turning and we're just breathing and noticing, feeling the the stretching of the skin on the belly here and the front and the ribs. And then one more time, inhale and extend up. And then exhale, we'll turn back first the head, then the shoulders, and then the belly. And let's go back and forth like this one more time. A little slower this time, nice and slow. Just feeling, giving the belly a chance to kind of soften a little bit. It's moving, but let it be soft. You can even, so sometimes when we work in an area that we're not used to, it can create tension and it gets hard. So you can even, depending on how your belly is, you can also kind of just press on it and kind of gently massage it a little bit to get it to soften and relax. And you could do the same thing with any part of the body. You could do it with the shoulders. If we do a lot of shoulder work or your shoulders aren't used to what we're doing, you can take your hand and you can give it a little massage just a few times. Sometimes that helps the muscles to relax and release. And that's an important part of our yoga practice, is to actually give the muscles a chance to relax and release. Otherwise, you end up with the muscles constantly in tension, and that creates all kinds of problems. We've all experienced things like that with tension in the neck and the shoulders. I mean, it could be anywhere in the body, the hips, the lower back. And part of it is because the muscles just stay contracted because of what we're doing, because of stress, too much time at the computer. It's all kinds of reasons. And so that's bending the spine in 6 ways. And let's come back. Let's interlace the fingers like this. Interlace the fingers. And we're going to gently extend the arms away. So notice my arms are a little bit bent here. And I'm going to do this a few times. I'm going to roll the hands out. So now my palms are facing out. And I'm going to slowly start to work my way up. So I'm going to come back. You can also change this is nice too. When I come back, change the interlace like this before you go back out. So each time, fingers come apart and then they interlace together. After a while, you don't notice that they feel the same, but in the beginning, we have a dominant index finger that we like on top better. Mine actually is the right. It might be because I'm right-handed, I'm not sure. And we're going to go back and forth, and we're going to start to work our way up a little higher. And when you get to the spot where your shoulders are not, when they're uncomfortable or they're starting to rise way up towards the ears, please don't go any further. So some people won't go as high. And some people may be able to go all the way up, and they may even be able to bring the elbows closer together. And then we're going to start to work our way back down now. So try changing the interlace each time. And then if this feels okay, you can bring the elbows a little closer together until finally the hands are starting to go down between the knees. And one last time. And then we're going to massage the hands. So when we did this, we were opening the palms a little bit. Let's open them a little more. So I'm going to hold my palm up like this, and I'm going to take the fleshy part of the thumb like this, and I'm going to bring it to the middle of the palm. So notice that my thumb's pointing up with my middle finger, and I'm going to hold behind my hand like this with my fingers. I'm going to roll that fleshy part of the thumb. So I'm opening the palm. So I'm using the fleshy part of the thumb to open the palm out to the side. And then I'm going to do it in 3 spots. I'm going to do it below the pinky. And then I'm going to do it between. So I bring the fleshy part at the palm. Fingers come between the thumb and the index finger. And then I'm going to move a little closer actually so you can see better. So these fingers are here and I'm opening. And then I'm going to do the base of the thumb here too. So now I reach behind, and I don't know if you can see, but my hands are getting redder. And I'm not doing it hard, but it helps with the blood flow. It's actually, I'm doing it kind of gently. This doesn't hurt. So we're not doing it so that it hurts. And the same thing with the other hand. So I take the fleshy part of the thumb right here, I put it in the middle, thumb's pointing same direction as the middle finger here, and then I'm going to roll my hand open like this. So this helps, especially if you have to work at the computer a lot. There's a tendency for the fingers to be all crunched over. This is a great thing if you can remember to do it every hour or so, because to open up the palm starts to build a little bit more flexibility, especially with the finger. It counteracts the fingers being curled over. So we do, there's a lot of things. The same thing with if you're sitting at a computer and you want a little relief, try bringing the arms out. We did this, we call it cactus breath. But this is that kind of an opposite. When we're at the computer, we tend to be hunched over and the shoulders tend to be rounded forward. We tend to sit like this. At the computer, we tend to lean forward too much. It's really common. We all do it. We all do it. And this helps to counteract that, moving the shoulder blades back and dropping the chin ever so slightly. So instead of the chin lifting forward like this, the chin's dropping down. And this helps to lengthen the back of the neck rather than being curving when we come forward like this. And let's come back and let's work on all the joints for a couple minutes. And we're going to do, let's do it this way. Let's do the feet and hands together. So let's rock the feet. Actually, let's start by rocking the feet. We've done a lot of hands and arms so far. Let's get the feet rocking here. So if you have been standing, you'll want to sit down for this. So I'm rocking the feet, really feeling, bringing my attention, really noticing, feeling the bottoms of the feet. So as I come up, as I lift my heels, I'm feeling the balls of the feet right behind the toes. So the balls of the feet, just keep going. Please don't stop. So when I demonstrate stuff, I mean, you're welcome to stop, but the idea is just watch what's happening and keep going and make adjustments as you're moving. So if you see something that you'd like to incorporate, then look at what you're doing, think about what you're doing, and make that adjustment, but keep going. Unless you're tired, and you're always welcome to rest. So that's the other thing. It's important if we're tired, and there's all kinds of reasons we could be tired, it's okay to rest for a few minutes and just breathe, and then jump back in when you're ready. And let's add the hands to it. So we're rocking the feet. I'm going to kind of rock the hands. So there's this opening and closing. So my hands are opening, and then the fingers are curling and closing. And notice the wrists are bending a little. So as my hands go out, my wrists open, and as they come back, they close. Or the angle here gets smaller. So it's a big angle and smaller. And I'm keeping my feet going at the same time. See if you can do that. Do the best you can. And if you can't do them both at the same time, pause one for a minute. Keep the other one going, and then try to add the other one. Doesn't have to be perfect either. Doesn't have to be perfect. And sometimes when I'm talking, I get out of sync. So you might not want to follow me exactly. And then we'll go ahead and rest. The hands will roll the shoulders a few times, and then back the other way. And let's go ahead and lift the feet up and circle the ankles. And let's circle the wrists at the same time. And see if you can make them become in sync. So we synchronize them together, and then we'll go the other way. And you might get a little pop or click every once in a while. And imagine they're soft here. So imagine a feeling of softness inside the wrist and inside the ankles. And then we'll go ahead and rest, and we will lift up and back down. Let's lift up one foot and we'll point and flex. We'll point and flex. So I'll turn sideways so you can see this is a pointed, flexed. And the toes are pointing straight up and down. They're going straight. So my foot's not turning in and it's not turning out. And let's do the other foot. If you haven't switched feet, please switch feet. So we're pointing and flexing. And sometimes as you point or flex your foot, you may need to adjust which side of the foot is, sometimes they'll rotate in or rotate out. You may need to bring your attention there and try to keep it even. So you may need to adjust. One side might have to pull back a little more than is automatic. So those are those imbalances. We all have these, nothing works in our body totally perfectly. We have imbalances. So sometimes with practice, we can get the things to be more in balance. And let's go ahead and we'll lift up one leg, flex the foot, and then raise the arm up or raise the elbow up if your shoulder gives you trouble. So try that a few times. You can even, if your shoulder's good, you can lift the leg, lift the elbow, and then extend the arm up. So really got 1, 2, 3, and then down. And then 1, 2, 3, and down. And do the other side. 1, 2, 3. So if you're just raising the elbow up, you'll go 1, 2, 3. You'll stop there and come back down. 1, 2, 3. And let's come back down. So we're going to alternate. I'm going to do one side and down, and then the other side. And if counting helps you, you're welcome to count to yourself. Really, the counting is sort of a tool to make us, to give a little bit more evenness to the movement and to give us some rhythm in the movement. Eventually, we want the movements to be flowing, so one kind of flows into the other. Keeping the shoulders relaxed here. Feel free to close the eyes if you want. Feel free to close the eyes. And if you want to add a little something, as you lift the leg up, think about pressing the opposite foot a little bit into the floor. Think about pressing the opposite foot. And if this is way too easy, try sliding away from the back of the chair. And do it without the support of the back of the chair. It should be more considerably more challenging. But without straining, I still want to be able to, if I'm unable to keep my spine extended, I'm going to want to use the back of the chair until I have enough strength to do that. So if your back starts to round when you don't use the back of the chair like this and collapse, then it's not good for the vertebra. So you want to make sure that you use the back of the chair in that case. And remember, you can rest whenever you want. And let's come back down. Let's just do some marching like this. And I'm lifting my knee up and my hand up. And actually, let's do the opposite. Let's do opposite hand. Imagining that you have an attachment. So it's almost like there's a connection between the hand and the knee. So when the hand comes up, it pulls the knee up. So this is similar to when we walk. And then go ahead and check to see what your knees are doing and see if you can keep them pointed straight ahead. Mine tend to do this. So I have to pay attention and keep them pointed straight ahead. And it's harder for me to get my feet. It's easier for me to turn my knee out like this to get my foot higher. let's see this. And now let's swing the hands. So do the same thing with the legs and swing the hands from side to side. And let's come back down and let's roll the shoulders a couple of times. And sliding forward. So we're going to sit near the edge of the chair. We want to be able to feel the sitting bones. The sitting bones still want to be well grounded on the seat of the chair. So we don't want to slide off the chair. We don't want to tip the chair over. And you might need to walk the feet a little bit further out as you slide away from the back of the chair. So notice that if I turn like this, I'm seated away from the back of the chair. It'll make some space back there. And I'm going to start to circle around. So I'm coming forward, side, and back, and side. With the shoulders, think about circling the shoulders around. Keeping the spine, keeping the feeling of extending the spine as you're circling the shoulders. So I'm not rounding over like this. My back's not rounding. It's extending up out of the pelvis. And, it's going to bend a little bit, but I want to try to maintain that axial extension. So think about lifting up through the heart, lifting the heart up. So the shoulders are circling, the heart is lifting, and the crown of the head is lifting up too. And let's go the other way. You can make this more challenging by making the circles bigger so that you're leaning back more, you're going to the side more, you're leaning forward more. You can get rid of the arms so they're not on the legs. When we have the arms here, it's a little bit of support. If you start to unsupport yourself, you don't want to have any pain in the back. No pain in the back, especially. Sometimes people overdo it and the lower back tells them it's not good. Please don't do that. You could even, if you wanted, you can swing the hands like this, like you're stirring something around. The nice thing about this is you can get a little bit of movement in the belly going, a little turning and twisting in the belly. Now let's go back the other way. So if you're doing this, you're turning and twisting the belly. And if this does bother your lower back, try making the circles smaller and sitting up more. So you can do all these same things with smaller circles. Notice I'm not going as far to the sides. I'm not leaning forward or back as much, but I'm getting excellent benefit in the abdomen, in the core body here. And this exercise is really works on the core muscles that are so important for sitting, for walking, for standing. We need to have all these muscles in the pelvis and the abdomen working together. And so we're going to transition. If you want to do standing today with us, please stand up. And I think we worked on this last week. I'd like to start with it again, which is the stepping back to open the front of the hip. Stepping back to open the front of the hip, like this. So we're going to go back and forth like that. And you can do this seated in a chair if you slide over to the edge of the chair. So notice when I step back, the ball of my foot's on the floor, and there's this curve along the front of the body. And I'm lifting my heart up. And I'm resting my hands. If you want, you can rest your hands on the chair. You don't have to. But I'm still lifting. I'm still thinking about lifting up. So notice how my heart's opening. You could even add the arms like this if you wanted. You can add the arms like this. So this is this is similar to if anybody's done airplane pose, where you lift the leg up like this and you put the arms out like this. It's starting to be like airplane pose. But this is better this works much better for the lower back. This motion should not hurt the lower back. If it does, make your movement smaller. And if you're in a chair, remember to slide over to the edge of the chair so you have some room to bring the thigh back. So what you'll do is you'll start on one side. You'll be going back and forth like this, and then you'll switch to the other side. A few more times. So if you're standing a few more times, if you're seated a few more times, you just have to get enough. You have to be on the edge of the chair enough without falling off. You may want to grab the other side of the chair with your opposite hand, like this. But please don't fall out of the chair. And we're stepping back like that. So going back and forth. And notice this also opens the front of the hip here. It's hard to get as much lift doing it that way, but it's not. You know, we have to make certain accommodations. So when we use a chair, things will be different. They won't be exactly the same. So I'd like to do tree pose. So we'll stand in our mountain pose, and we'll start off with we're bending and straightening. And if you have a yoga block or you have your towel, you're welcome to use that. Just adjust this just a little bit. So you're welcome to have something between the thighs so that the thighs are slightly engaged. So when I do this, I feel the muscles on the inner thighs engaging. It actually helps to engage my buttock muscles too. And I'm not squeezing very hard, just enough to hold whatever we have in place. But you don't have to do that. And then I'm going to bend the knees. I'm going to bend the knees. So it may be hard for you to see, but my knees are actually going straight ahead, which is why you can't really see them bending. But you should be able to see it now. My knees are bending. I'm not going past I'm only going as far as my toes with the knees. Once my knees, once I can't see my toes anymore, that's as far as I go. And I'm thinking about keeping the buttocks, keeping the gluteal muscles engaged here. So it's important for the gluteal muscles help to support the thigh muscles and take some of the tension out of the knees. So if we keep the gluteal muscles a little bit contracted so that they're pressing in towards each other. So think about it, squeezing them together. And you're welcome to even put your hands on your gluteal muscles, and then you can feel. Usually one works better than the other. It takes practice to get them to work in a similar way. And then, so we'll do tree pose. We'll stand up nice and tall. Think about lifting the ribs. Remember, we used the arms before to get length. Let's do that a few times. Get length with the arms reaching up, or with the elbows reaching up. So either way, arms or elbows reaching up or lengthening. And then we're going to shift the weight over into the right leg. So you might need your chair for this, for balance. You can rest your fingertips, and you can turn the left groin out. So I'm opening the left groin and then resting the sole of the foot on the inside of the calf here. The other choice is to actually rest the toes on the floor and rest the heel near the ankle, so that we have a little bit of weight on the bent leg, and but most of the weight is, or a large part of the weight's on the straight leg. And then if you want, you can add your tree branches, as long as your balance is good. And if you need to step down for a moment, feel free to step down and come back up. Think about breathing, standing up nice and tall, pressing that straight leg down. I can even give a sigh, like you're a tree in the wind, and then coming back down and lowering back down. We'll do the other side. So starting in mountain pose. So we're balanced on both feet, and then we extend the spine up, and then go ahead and press the left foot down. So the whole left leg is extending up, and we're going to turn that right groin out and find a spot for the foot, either on the inside of the calf, or you can rest the toes down on the floor. Think about standing up nice and tall and then adding your branches if you like. Adding your branches if you like. And give a little sigh here if you want, like a tree swaying. Sometimes if it's really windy, you hear the wind rustling through the trees. So that helps. The sighing helps to relieve tension. And if you start to wobble a little bit, you can always come down. You can always touch the chair. And then we'll go ahead and come back down. And we're going to sit back down. So get as comfortable as you can. We're going to do a little bit of warming down, inhaling up and arms around. So we started, this I think was the first movement we did today. This or similar movement, it's one of my favorite movements actually, because it helps me open the chest. It helps me lengthen the spine and free up the shoulders. And then we'll go ahead and we'll go the other way a couple times. Feel free to close the eyes. And then one more time. And then we're going to find a comfortable way to sit in the chair. So a couple things you could try, if you did have a towel or a rolled up towel, sometimes this is nice to put something behind you, either right down at the bottom of the chair. It kind of depends on the shape of the chair, or at the lumbar spine. The other thing that can be nice is, depending on where you are, as we start to cool down, as we start to relax, our body temperature usually drops. So today I'm going to put the towel about my lumbar spine, and even just covering yourself with something, doesn't matter really, sweater, shawl, this is a little blanket, can be nice to keep us from getting cold, especially, it's still a little cold here, especially for things like the feet, and just sort of resting and taking a few breaths. So we're always starting out with just a few breaths. And feeling balanced in our seat, feeling balanced, feeling the left and right foot are even, the left and right buttock, left and right shoulder, even the left and right side of the face. Let them feel in balance. If you have glasses, you may want to take them off. It's a little easier for the face to relax. We're allowing ourselves to breathe very softly and rhythmically, really not trying to do it, just sort of letting go of the breathing, observing the breathing. If you've been using Ujjayi breathing during the practice, usually for relaxation we don't do Ujjayi breathing. The shoulders are relaxed. You soften the face and the eyes. Remember, you can close the eyes here. It's nice to close the eyes. And then you can exhale and soften the shoulders and the arms. So each time we breathe in, we feel a bit of lightness in the body. And each time we exhale, there's a softening, a releasing, a relaxing, a grounding. The feet on the earth and the buttocks in the chair. And soften the shoulders and the arms and the fingers. relaxing the shoulder blades and the back of the body, and softening the front of the body, the heart, the front ribs, the belly, releasing the buttocks and the hips, relaxing the legs, the knees, shins and calves, and finally softening the ankles and the feet and the toes. Feeling the belly gently expanding as we're breathing in, and the belly softening as we breathe out. That nice relaxation, that wave of relaxation each time we breathe out. Continue with about a minute or so of silent meditation, breathing, whatever you'd like to do. And we'll begin that now. We thank each other for practicing today with the Sanskrit word for thank you, which is namaste. Namaste, thank you. Thank you for practicing today. So we have